By now, you're all
Wait,
addicted to the Friday evening, and you know that there is something for the scholars and researchers on policy issues, some issues that will be discussed in this. So, in today's webinar series, we have Professor Sarma and Professor Goswami talking to us about development of Northeast. And we are very, I would say, happy that in the last 3 months since we have started our seminar series, this is the third in that sequence where we are thinking of bringing in policymakers, thought people, scholars who really make opinion, help us in guiding policy to come and think together. In that context, this third lecture on Northeast, I think, is very welcome. So, without wasting any time, let's go straight to the two professors. They are going to talk to us about their thoughts, and then we'll have question answer session. And then I have a few good announcements, important announcements to make for the next two Fridays. So with this, let me hand over the mic to Professor Sarma and Professor Goswami, please.
Okay.
Share কৰিলে আমি পাই যাম চাগে ন
Okay.
share কৰিলে ৰ'ব একেলগে উলিয়াই লওঁ
Share কৰা পাছত কৰিম Okay, Professor Singh, we can start.
Please go ahead. We are waiting for you.
They can hear us.
Yeah, we can start, Professor Singh.
Professor Sarma, we are waiting for you and we're looking forward to your presentation. And once you've done your presentation, I'm going to request both of you to take some question answers, and then we will close the session and I have important announcements to make after that. So the mic is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Charan Singh and the other functionaries of EGROW Foundation. This is indeed a pleasure for both of us. Myself, Nripendra Narayan Sharma. I am currently working in KK Hendricks State Open University as professor in management as well as director of Center for Internal Quality Students. And my co-presenter, Dr. Chandrama Goswami, is the principal of Kamakharam Burwa Girls College, Guwahati. So both of us are going to make a presentation on this particular topic, development of Northeast. It's a topic which is very close to our heart. It's a very vast topic, and it encompasses a wide range of perspectives, myriad of issues, and in the developmental context, covering all those aspects and bringing all these aspects. It's beyond us. It's not possible. So, at the same time, giving justice to the topic, we have thought that we shall try to address some of the issues and some of the facts, most especially some recent facts, but COVID has changed the entire scenario. So I would like to request the members in the audience not to be much bothered about the facts and figures that we are going to present. Request the members in the audience of this webinar to consider those as indicative only, indicative in terms of addressing the issues, developmental issues. So that is one premise based on which we shall be making the presentation. And then we have got about 1 hour at our disposal. So what we propose to do, first, we shall give a structured presentation, both myself and Dr. Chandrama Goswami. And since the issues are quite diverse, so we had a discussion, telephone, email conversation with EGROW Foundation also. And accordingly, we just sorted out a tentative minute-by-minute plan. And we wanted to have the coverage encompassing the various aspects of primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, health, education, infrastructure, ease of doing business, different migration, different perspectives. As you know, the list would be endless. The problems of Northeast, what could be the possible solutions, so many issues. So at the same time, we are highly aware that we should not get lost in the larger picture. Ultimately, we should be able to address the crux of the issues. So accordingly, we have developed a presentation which we are going to make, and request all the members in the audience to kindly go through the presentation. Once we are through with the presentation, and it will take about 40 or 45 minutes, maybe at the same time, strict as far as that schedule is concerned. Basically, our objective is to give the structured presentation within 35 to 40 minutes. Then we shall make it open to the members in the audience. And in the meantime, if the members in the audience somewhere feel that they have some queries, some issues, or some matters of concern, they can raise those, they can place those in the chat box, which also we shall be able to, whatsoever possible. It's not a question of addressing or redressing, it's a question of having meaningful discussion. So with this few words, myself and Dr. Chandrama Goswami, both of us who will be jointly conducting this webinar, would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and once again thank Professor Charan Singh and the other functionaries in EGROW Foundation. Okay, we'll start the presentation now. Okay. Is it visible in part, class members in the audience?
Yes.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, fine. I told you the presentation, we are having this, right, the timeline sort of, in order to organize ourselves. And I have, and then developmental paradigms. Then we shall also discuss about some of the characteristics, and here we shall be addressing the recent issues, agriculture, then some industries, migration, health. Then after having a coverage, and in between addressing some other perspectives also, we shall have, and then we shall have the interaction. That's our plan. Say, in this webinar, our country, India, is a multilingual country. It's a very diverse country, and so many, right? The topographical, them, or what you take, right? India is one in many and many in one. And this is a great saying by our father of the nation, Gandhiji, that India is one in many and many in one. So this saying by Gandhiji, we think that the same is applicable to our northeastern region also. Northeastern region comprises 8 states. Sikkim came into the fold of northeastern region in 2002, but earlier basically it's known as Seven Sisters. But politically, in order to, because Sikkim also can avail the benefits of the developmental schemes, so the Sikkim is also very much part of the northeastern region, and Sikkim and the other 7 states, all the 8 states. If you see the different ethnic groups, more than 220. In number of dialects also more than 220. These are recognized dialects. In fact, in Arunachal Pradesh itself, they are having more than 50 dialects. Lots of other dialects. It makes it quite diverse. And at the same time, if you see state-wise, it's basically a conglomeration. And from that perspective, we see that Northeast India is basically an umbrella connotation. Each of the state of Northeast India has got their own idiosyncratic characteristics. Each and every one is different. But altogether, all these 8 states are addressing as an umbrella connotation, and basically to as if that this umbrella connotation will wipe up some of the diversity and will make it an unified whole kind of thing. And with that unified whole kind of thing, right, we categorically describe it as a northeastern region, as if it is one unified whole. And that's why the term NER persists, and it assumes increasing significance in terms of our social value. Geographically, also, each and every state has got certain differences, but there are some other aspects also. In Assam, Brahmaputra River, Borak River, the river systems are there, along with the tributaries are there. Economic division, administrative division, some of the states are having the inner line permit. And at the same time, this northeastern region normally considered as a development deficit region. If we see kind of developmental indicators, the Western India, the Southern India, compared to that, the Eastern India is not right. They're developing that fast. States, right, the northeastern region are not developing that fast. Out of those northeastern region, Assam is leading in terms of a number of developmental indicators. Compared to Assam, the state's domestic product of the other northeastern states is much less. So that's the scenario. 8% of India's land and 3% of India's population. And it's, as we all know, it is the easternmost gateway to Southeast Asia. As of now, this remains as a statement only, because many infrastructural issues are to be sorted out. We talk about the Act East policy in our presentation, subsequent part of our presentation issue. And another important aspect is, as we all know, northeastern region shares a long international border. About 98% of the borders of Northeast India is surrounded by the other countries. So Northeast India is connected to the mainland of the country through a 22 kilometers corridor, eastern corridor, which is many times referred as chicken's egg. So mostly whether it is coming from the people of the region or whether it is coming from the initiatives of government. It's mostly the government. Government has assumed, government has felt the need of developing the northeastern region, because politically also, right, the way the northeastern region has been integrated with the mainland of the country. Assam at that time, the East India Company, British Raj, 1826, and this Yandabu Treaty was passed. Then Assam came into being. Meghalaya, the other states, Sikkim, right, integrated gradually into the overall dominion of India. So the government of India has assumed the role, and to that extent, the Northeastern Council was formed. Later on, the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region was formed, and all these developmental initiatives are basically trying to address the developmental issues, deficits pertaining to all areas: primary, agriculture, horticulture, pisciculture, floriculture, secondary, manufacturing, construction, mining, quarrying, mines, likewise the trade and service sector. All the sectors are being addressed. And all these sectors are aimed at maybe living, quality of life of some people, and ultimately the consumption. Consumption contributes to more than 60% of GDP, and northeastern context it is more evident because of the schemes that the governments are launching, and those ultimately leads towards the increase in government consumption also. And we have given a quotation about liberal central funding, because outside northeastern region, many times there is a perception that the northeastern regions are being centrally paid, curtailing some of the developmental schemes to which the other states could have been entitled. Here we are giving a fact and statistics that in 2014-15, the central sector fund was rupees. The central sector fund was rupees 4,84,000. So 10% of the allocation, say 48,000 crore, was available to Northeastern region. In addition to the planned allocation of each state, every state will be having their own planned allocation. They will be having their own fiscal space. And in addition to that, the 10% of this one, the pool of unspent funds. And in our presentation, we shall address this particular issue. That the schemes are there, funds are allotted, but ultimately the resource utilization, the utilization of resources in terms of the execution of schemes and projects, ultimately unspent funds has been accumulating for lack of capacity to formulate fundable proposals. So project management is a big challenge as far as utilization of the central funding. So this developmental strategy requires. So we are going to have an understanding of the developmental paradigms. So my colleague Dr. Chandrama Goswami will address some of the developmental paradigms now.
Hello everyone. So before we go to the development paradigm of Northeast India, we just give a brief description of what is development. So as we all know, development is something which is which makes something positive. Like it is or a new stage of change in and which is better than the situation which was there earlier. So while referring to a society or to a socioeconomic system, development means improvement. So improvement may be either in the general situation or in some of its constituent elements. And development may come through some specific measures or some deliberate action carried out by some agencies. As Anand Soma had just said, that there has been many aspects of development which there has been many steps taken by the central government to bring in development in how Northeast, what level of development Northeast have been able to achieve is still a big question. So development, as we all know, is a multi-dimensional concept, and the different dimensions of development may be economic development, sustainable development, what we are talking about right now. All these concepts of development after the coming of COVID, starting from December to 2019, these concepts of development have there has been a need to look into a change what exactly development means. So development paradigm means a path which we need to follow to achieve development. So it is sometimes we identify an exhaustive set of past or present paradigm adopted to develop socioeconomic systems. So it is difficult to achieve development paradigm in all aspects. It becomes difficult. So it is significant to assess past process and design or redesign our ongoing and future steps we are going to take to find new perspectives for development and other related policies. So, as I just said, after the coming of COVID-19, what has happened to development? The aspects of development that we had understood earlier has changed. So, COVID-19 crisis is yet to be fully understood. So, what is development now? Development pre-COVID, it's needs to be understood. So, the UN has also called the COVID the greatest test that we have faced since the formation of the United Nations. It is because economy, which has taken place due to COVID. Because those are some of the indirect effects, although the health aspect has reduced in certain parts of the world. Just now we were talking about Delhi, the crisis is still very severe, whereas in Northeast India, the crisis has somewhat abated. Now we are thinking about a post-COVID new development paradigm where the health goals and the economic goals play a very important role. The health goals will be to defeat the virus and establish a more effective global public health system that can respond effectively to major disease outbreak. COVID-19 came and the total health system collapsed in almost all countries of the world. So it is not that this pandemic is over, or we may not be, whether another pandemic of this dimension may also come. The health goal will be to have a public health system which can respond very effectively to major disease outbreak. Then the economic goal. Economic goals, the livelihood aspect, which is the most important thing that we always talk about. And the economic goals will be to limit the economic damage and facilitate an inclusive, equitable and rapid rebound. That means bring the economy back to where it was at least, and it should be all inclusive. Whether that can be done or not is, but that is the thing we want to do, bring in an inclusive, equitable and rapid rebound and strengthen and secure supply chains which were social distancing and the lockdown. So as we had just, Sir had said in his previous, presentation, development paradigm adopted by central government in the Northeast. There was a lot of transfer of concession funding in the Northeast, but mainly increased consumption, but failed to build the industrial base. So then came in the Lookist policy, which was Lookist policy, now known as the Act East policy. So after the coming of the Lookist policy, the northeastern region came into focus, that the whole of Southeast Asian countries can be approached in all culturally, economically, and through all other aspects through Northeast India. So the Lookist policy as a policy framework for development of the Northeast is the new paradigm of development for the Northeast. But it remains to be seen whether, which we will take up in a subsequent discussion, whether the Lookist policy will actually bring in development of the Northeast India. So
okay. Yeah, Dr. Chandra Goswami just now has stated about the new development, the new paradigm of development. So regarding this new paradigm of development, we'll be having some comparison with some of the developed states. Before this, before I go for this slide, at the time of independence, say out of the northeastern region states, Assam was developed. But after independence, somehow or other, Assam has not been able to maintain the space. And the industries which were developed in Assam before independence, like say tea, oil, and plywood, later because of the Supreme Court decision, plywood industry had to, for the environmental concerns, plywood industry faced its own consequences. But tea is the major, which is, and the oil, ONGC, or that is mostly in the public sector. And some of the abandoned oil fields are being managed by the private sector. So that is more or less the scenario. We shall be talking about some other issues, some perspectives later on. But as regards this comparison with developed states, we have just given example of this Gujarat, one of the industrially developed states. FDI massive surge accounts for more than 50% of total FDI received in India. Annual industry, 17.5% of industrial output in India. Contributes about 23% of India's exports at April to September 2022 data. Gujarat's ports handle 40% of India's cargo. if we compare this scenario, these four indicate we are lagging far behind. Out of the northeastern states, only Assam is, right, to some extent, having, right, to some extent, to a very minor degree, is comparable to some of states. In this context, I would like to share one experience of mine, which I had in 1994. At that time, Dr. Jayant Madhav, who is no more, he expired recently. Dr. Jayanta Madhav, a prominent Assamese, he was the former director of Asian Development Bank. And in 1994, he made a presentation in Guwahati, and the topic was the vision for Northeast in the current context of development, in the current context of globalization. Vision for development of Northeast in the current context of globalization. And in that topic, he stated that the benefits of liberalization, privatization, globalization has not yet reached Northeast India and will take, right, a long, the Northeastern region will have to go a long way to avail the benefits. And in 2020, we are having this kind of a picture. We are far behind compared to the developed states. Forget about FDI, forget about FII, whatsoever. We are not having all those things. So that's not a matter of regret. Every state has got their own idiosyncratic characteristics. Right, takes another example of Andhra Pradesh, shows more than 20% of national share in production of 10 agricultural products, with remarkable holdings in coca, tobacco, marine fish. 34% of SDP, the state domestic product, coming from agriculture, 55% labor force employed in the sector. In Assam, if you see the contract farming or the organized farming, all these are not that, except to some extent the tea sector. And tea sector is only one which is having more than 20% national share. And others, and the northeastern states, that is only in Assam. Other northeastern states, right, have a long way to go as far as agricultural districts is also concerned. So my friend Dr. Chandrama will give some aspects of agriculture in this context.
When we talk about agriculture, the northeastern region produces only 1.5% of the country's food grain production. And being an agricultural state also, it continues to be a net importer of food grains even for its production. So I think every aware about agriculture here, where we talk about June cultivation, vast areas are burnt and agriculture is carried in that manner also. So that means the main characteristics of agriculture are low cropping intensity, because zooming can take place only once a year. Actually, it was done once in 4 or 5 years, but because increase in population, it is done almost every year. So low crop intensity, subsistence farming, and because this happens also because of the topography, which is mainly hilly. Because of the hilly areas only, June cultivation needs to be done, and there the cropping intensity is better. So these are just some of the facts. That utilization of cultivable area is only 62.4%, and the natural and at the national level it is 73%. So agricultural land including fallow land is 22.2%, whereas it is 54% in India. Cultivators and agricultural laborers constitute the majority of the workforce. Due to the absence of a strong industrial base, most of the people are engaged in agriculture. Now the service sector has grown, but then mainly in the rural areas, it is the people are engaged mostly in the agricultural sector. So land distribution is egalitarian, rooted in the principle. This happens mostly in the hilly areas, in the where community way of living and sharing, where people live together and even farming is done together. And these are communities which maintain their own. Means they are communities who do not want to communicate with the outside world, and they have their own way of living and sharing. Productivity of land is low, as you had said, low cropping intensity, where modern farming, the indigenous plough being implemented in place of modern farming, and irrigation covers only 80% of the net sown area. These are just some of the figures which we have given to show that agriculture is still in its nascent stage, even being an agricultural region. Then there are three allied sectors which we talk about: horticulture. Due to the very good agroclimatic condition and abundant rainfall, northeastern region has promising horticulture and value-added products that can be marketed within the country and abroad. So we have varieties of orchids, we have varieties of floricultural products which can be marketed and marketed within and outside the country. Then livestock rearing is an integral component of previous has become to enter here previous livestock rearing is an integral component of hill farming, and it plays a significant role in rural economy by providing ground employment, particularly to small and marginal farmers. But poultry, even now, the whole of Northeast India brings in a lot of livestock product from other states of India. The Northeast region is considered as one of the hotspots of freshwater fish diversity, and this region is ideal for inland and freshwater pisciculture. And in spite of this, in spite of having everything, livestock rearing or freshwater fish, both poultry products and fish are brought from other states to Northeast India for consumption. So these are some of the agricultural products that are grown, which I'll not go into the details. So the cereals and pulses and oil seeds grown are rapeseed, mustard. Then horticultural crops account for only 18.6% of the total cultivated area, whereas the climatic condition is very conducive for horticultural crops. Then irrigation. India, as we all know, in the Cherrapunji, which gets the maximum amount of rainfall. But in spite of getting having only 11% of the cultivable area is irrigated. That means the proper irrigation facilities are available only in 11% of the cultivable area. Then minor irrigation schemes are has been brought in nowadays, but under MI schemes, an irrigation potential of 46,500 hectares has been created, of which 34 are being utilized. Then, besides irrigation potential of 2 lakh hectares under Bharat Nirman is targeted, and out of which these are just some figures which have shown that irrigation is now taken up on a massive scale. So these are some of the estimates about how much of food grain imported from other states to meet the daily consumption of agricultural and allied products in Northeast India. These are figures which I have taken from secondary data. And so what has happened because of COVID? So we understand that the rough estimates of harvesting of around 10 to 17% of vegetables, 8% of oilseeds, and 6% of pulse crops are affected due to lockdown in Northeast region. Floriculture sector has been hampered to a great extent because those products cannot be, those are perishable products which cannot be stored for any amount days together, they cannot be stored. Then sowing of certain spices, ginger and turmeric, which are which grow quite well in northeastern region, had to be delayed, and so the production is likely to be less. Then non-supply agricultural inputs, high-yielding variety seeds for Kharif region, that will also delay agriculture, that will also reduce agricultural production. Then agriculture supply chain has also been disturbed with facilities for transportation, leading to shortage of essential goods and rising prices of perishable commodities in most of the states of the region. Then farming communities have also incurred loss, which is true not only for northeastern region but throughout the country and other parts of the world too. Animal sectors have suffered because those things also cannot be preserved, and because the northeastern regions depends on supply from other states also, that the sector has become deficient in, has not been able to fulfill his demand of these products. Milk supply chain has also been affected due to close down of hotels and bakeries. Then lack of proper communication in rural areas has hindered the information dissemination to a great extent. These are some of the effects of COVID. We have brought in COVID because in the development perspective, because COVID is something which we all need to learn to live with. It has not gone away, and maybe it will. What is going to be there in the future? No one knows. So what can in recent years, due to appropriate policy initiatives by the government, the progress in agriculture in the region is visible, and few states are now self-sufficient in food grain production. Fishery sector has also improved. Even now, we import fishes from other states of the country. By 2030, the region is expected to have surplus production in cereals, fruits, and fish, even though it would be deficient in production of pulses, oilseeds, milk, meat, and egg. The potentiality of agriculture is very vast in the Northeast, and with appropriate market-led production system, along with technology and participation of young educated people, agriculture would grow substantially to meet the demand between production and demand. So in this new, in this coming year, the share of agriculture in state GDP is likely to increase because rainfall has been very, adequate amount of rainfall has been there. And there has been certain initiatives taken by the government of India, which is likely to bring in an increased share of agriculture. So to be the steps taken. So release of compensation, which has been done to some extent to farmers who could not sell their perishable commodities. Then the government should immediately ensure the supply of critical agricultural inputs at farm. The high-yielding variety seeds or fertilizers or insecticides which the farmers need for their production needs to be given to the farmers at the earliest. Arranging loans or for farmers for maybe repayment can be made easier to some of the farms which closed down. Maybe they can revitalize the existing farm enterprises. The same facility should also be extended to the migrant workers having strong desire to take agriculture as their vocation. These are the migrant workers who have returned from other parts of the country. The government should also make sure that the bank releases the loan amount to the farmers within 7 to 10 days of their duly submitted application. So this means the bank, everything needs to be made in a very rapid way so that agricultural production can achieve its desired goal. Then double and triple cropping, self-sufficient in poultry, egg production. These facilities also needs to be taken up, which the some certain steps have been taken up in, especially in Assam. Certain steps in cluster mode have been taken up for achieving self-sufficiency in crops and poultry. Then cooperative societies and SHGs registered with the state government may be utilized for aggregator-based services in agriculture to solve the problem of transportation of the farmers. Then a mandatory fodder bank is necessary in each revenue village through the Ministry of Animal Husbandry and Veterinary, which is not available. This fodder bank is not available in most of the villages in the northeastern region. So I now ask So to
Okay.
take over.
Yeah. Dr. Chandrama has stated about the COVID-19 implications in the developmental perspectives of Northeast India, and that too more which is reference to the agriculture and allied sector. Manufacturing sector, construction, quarrying, mining, and the secondary sector, all over the country, we are experiencing some kind of stagnation. The contribution of manufacturing sector to the gross domestic product, it has remained flat for a long period. We have been seeing the agriculture sector, service sector, the share of agriculture sector coming down, the share of service sector to the gross GDP is increasing, but we have not seen much of the happening in the manufacturing sector. For a long period, there has been the employment potential of manufacturing sector, more especially in the MSME sector, cannot be ruled out. And for the states of northeastern region, this MSME sector is very, very important. And overall, the manufacturing sector share of our country, that 50% or 17%, is not at all comparable with some other countries like say Malaysia 22%, Thailand 27%, South Korea 29%, China 29%. And even in Bangladesh also, the way it is developing, the share of manufacturing sector is 17%. So in this also we can see the northeastern region has got an effect on employment as well as economic growth, because if the manufacturing sector develops, say in northeastern region, we know about the scheme that Northeast NEIIP, Northeast Industrial Investment and Promotion Policy, and which has been able to attract a number of companies to come and establish factories here. And we know some of the companies like say Imami, now that they went into Pantnagar, Baddi in Himachal Pradesh, now that they have relocated they have not discontinued their existing other production facilities, but they have relocated or refurbished some of their production facilities in northeastern region, and they are making huge production from the northeastern region. And when a big company like say Imami comes to northeastern region, along with it, all the backward linkages, the supply chain linkages, their vendors also have come. So it creates a lot of favorable economic impact into the state economy. More or less, Dr. Chandrama has stated, more especially with respect to agriculture sector. So that the participants in this webinar do not get lost the way we are making the presentation. So in an interim kind of presentation we have made about the problems, that we do not have big business, capital formation is a low level, geographically the region is isolated in terms of having its own logistics problems, natural resources depleting, that's why the plywood industry had to be closed, and work capacity of native population. This point has not been touched upon so far. Dr. Chandrama has referred in respect of migration, but the native population, this is that in Assam it is said as lahe lahe, means the slowly. Right? We do not want to take big risks. Right? There's a work capacity of the native population. That entrepreneurship zeal is not that significant. Rather, we can say in many cases it is insignificant compared to the developed states like say Gujarat, Maharashtra, etc. So work capacity, lack of entrepreneurship skills, and because of the large scale investment by government and the wide rampant corruption, there's a tendency of earning easy money, and that could be an outcome of the long drawn militant struggles, extremism, or the kind of unrest the entire northeastern region experienced. And after that, as a fallout, the rehabilitation of the surrendered militants, whatsoever, right? A number of factors are involved. But overall, this is a disturbing trend that instead of striving for hard-earned money, there's a tendency of earning easy money, and that has got far-reaching consequences. And in most of the projects, government-run projects, the projects run by the public sector, time and cost overrun. has been a big issue. Lots of procedural aspects are there, and maybe sometimes because of the logistical problems or the natural problems, because Assam is mostly flood prone, and Assam is the gateway to the other northeastern region states. So sometimes the roads are blocked because of flood, and sometimes the roads are blocked because of the educational related issues also. And structural reforms, LPG benefits yet to reach fully, that was already stated. Chandrama has mentioned, we will not deal much more about this because our time is also passing fast. So, but it is expected that the entire region, the kind of positive sense in the entire region, but the region will have to be able to earn the benefits of ACTIS policy. Multimodalism, I've given the example of Gujarat, the port, the waterways that we're making, but in Northeast, logistics is a typical issue. Hilly terrain connected through that chicken snake and railway lines many times, that electrification is yet to be completed. Lot many issues for this highway network also. Likewise, the state highways or the district major roads or the connecting all the Mafasal towns. Right? Logistics is a big problem. River systems, Brahmaputra and Barak, the tributaries are there, but the contribution of inland water transport to the overall cargo movement stands at only 3%, which is 32% in Bangladesh. It's a comparable figure. Because at the same time, we are having a huge system of rivers and the tributaries. Brahmaputra and Barak, a number of tributaries from both sides of the two rivers. But still, we have not been able to make much use of the inland water transportation. The river beds are coming rise, and that is another issue. But with this policy, we are looking for some breakthroughs, like say Kaladan project, contributing the state of Mizoram with the Situate project of port of Myanmar. Likewise, we can visualize about the potential benefits of if all the highways, the tri-littoral highways comes out. Dr. Chandrama will quickly touch on the industries in Northeast India.
So when we talk India, we can say Northeast is a chronic industrially underdeveloped region. So as Sir had mentioned earlier, at the time of independence, Assam got a booming tea and oil sector, and transportation, mainly railways, was well developed. But then, because of topography and other inadequate infrastructure, after that, it has not been, the northeastern region has not been able to take up the process of growth of industries. And no initiatives have also been taken for to build up the industries on the available resources. And as I had talked about floriculture and other aspects which are not taken up in agriculture, even in industry, resources are not fully utilized. Most of the manufacturing units, 70% of the units are in the rural areas. And these rural-based manufacturing activity are in the informal sector, mainly handloom and handicraft units, which have a very low capital base, and which is usually goes from one generation to the other. Then was introduced in 1997, but it allotted a certain amount of money, but as Sir had said, due to corruption and other activities, insurgency and other activities, this industrial policy also could not do much to bring about industrial development of the region. So a predominant section of the population is still directly dependent on agriculture. So it is really believed that economic development would depend on improved productivity of agriculture, and the arguments for prospects of industries always appear forceful in all discussions. So because of the abundance of, in spite of the abundance of natural resources, there has been no industries, almost no industries to take advantage of these resources. The policy measures by the central and the state governments are mostly in the form of subsidies and concession, rather than strategic intervention for addressing the fundamental constraint on industrial growth. So concessions and subsidies usually do not lead to growth, but actual growth needs to be done using the existing resources. It's thought about now. So it is now like very recently, the last month, there was a big news. Northeast India is now known for development, tourism, organic farming, industry, and startup, which was stated by Amit Shah in his Destination Northeast 2020. So, actually, due to not Act's policy, these things are coming into focus. Once in news, the northeastern region was in news due to terrorism, blockade, and violence. But now these are the aspects which needs to be taken up more rigorously. These are some of the things which we thought would lead to greater growth of industries in Northeast. So I will not go into the details, but I'll just mention the creation of the Northeast Special Infrastructure Development Scheme. Under this scheme, which is entirely funded by the central government, money would be provided to the northeastern states for infrastructure, water supply, power and connectivity, enhancing tourism, primary and secondary education, and health. This is one initiative which can bring in a lot of change in the northeastern region. Then after COVID came the travel local norm. So if that becomes the norm, tourism as an industry could develop very rapidly in Northeast India. All the 8 states of Northeast India have got very good tourist locations which can bring in a lot of tourists, not only from the different states of the country but from outside also. So we talk about Meghalaya, where summer tourism was like it had a downfall. There was no tourism during the summer, but winter tourism is slightly picking up in Northeast after because of the removal of COVID norms in this region. Then trade industrial development, we can say, is its natural resource base. Hydroelectric potential is very high. There are which can lead to growth of industries. Then we had forest-based industries, but due to rapid felling of trees, the Supreme Court gave a ban on the felling of trees in 1995. Tea industry is still surviving, though not in a very means not among the first or second category. Then the traditional handicraft skills of people is another resource with potential for supporting considerable industrial employment. But this can happen once tourism takes up. So, as I said, deficiency in local entrepreneurship is one of the major drawback of the northeastern region people. So they do not have this entrepreneurial entrepreneurship. What to say? Like to become an entrepreneur of their own. Mostly people are they want a government job or a job in a public sector, but with a decline in public sector job opportunities, now there has been a growth of pool of local entrepreneur talent. So that then comes marketing and transport bottleneck, which is likely to be taken up by the infrastructure development projects that are coming in. Industry, I'll just talk about health. So number of COVID cases in Northeastern India has been less than in other states. Why? Have we been more careful, or is it because of higher immunity? So till now data is not available, but careful I cannot say, because once we go out we see people roaming around in groups without mask, without using sanitizers. So this could be, and this has been coming up frequently in the news, that the high incidence of malaria and excessive consumption of chloroquine could northeastern region are displaying higher immunity to COVID-19. So this is another aspect which that according to research taken at ICMR, this also says that use of chloroquine is to suppress malaria could be one reason for the lesser number of COVIDs in the northeastern region. So,
Okay. So Dr. Chandrama has talked tourism, and tourism is an in more especially in the case of COVID-19, that summer tourism, there was tourism, it is picking up, and it's mostly domestic tourism. And whatsoever, tourism as an industry is known for its multiplier effects in terms of revenue generation for a number of like hotel industry, catering, accommodation, all this. Along with these things, we also need to see about the energy sector. That is very much important for the development, and the energy consumption is considered as an indicator of development. And here also we can see that in terms of national average that we are far behind, and that indicates about the status of development in northeastern region. If we see energy as an indicator, but the northeastern region, in terms of supply perspectives, northeastern region has got tremendous potential. But problem whatsoever installed capacity is there, even that is also not fully utilized, mostly because of the low plant load factor and weak connectivity, power grid connectivity with the eastern grid, limited carrying and distribution capacity of the existing power distribution network. But there are certain other, say, according to Central Electric Authority, the focus for electrical energy requirement in the northeastern region is 2021-22 is 5075 megawatt, and it's likely to be doubled by 2031-32. Arunachal Pradesh is known to have about 80% of hydropower identified potential. 90% capacity is yet to be developed. Out of this 80%, if this 80% capacity can be actualized, it has the capacity to serve not only the northeastern region, some other states of eastern India, because the large scale, the power grid network has come up. Estimated 50,000 megawatt of hydropower potential remains untapped. It has not been yet tapped. We are having a long way to go, but major hydroelectric projects have got their own environmental concerns, have got some other far-reaching northeastern NIPCO as well as NHPC and NTPC. All these state central sector giants are very much present in the northeastern region, but all of them are facing number of problems in terms of execution of their projects, mostly for the environmental issues and not being able to address the local concerns. Recent, Dr. Chandrama has talked about the Northeastern Region Power System Improvement Project and all this. Last another rupees 6,700 crores is being invested in Northeast. So large investment. Special Infrastructure Development Scheme, Dr. Chandrama has mentioned. Likewise, Northeastern Industrial Investment and Promotion Policy. A number of schemes are there for the northeastern region, and the large amount of money is being pumped into the northeastern region. So ultimately, as I have been reiterating, development ultimately will have to address the issues of productivity, and productivity is basically of output to input. We need to be concerned about the outcomes. At the same time, we need to be concerned about the resource efficiency. We can cite one quotation by the father of modern Peter Drucker, Managing in Turbulent Times in 1980, said that whenever there has been economic development in a country, it has been based on the purposeful management of resources. So money is not a problem. How that money is being utilized for the developmental purpose, that's one important thing. So nothing has changed the economic landscape quite so much between the 19th and 20th century as the explosion of productivity. So productivity explosion in terms of the outcomes that we are going to achieve in the context of the resource efficiency or the resources that we are going to consume. So developmental perspectives. So psychologically speaking, development is the process of giving a sense of power to individuals. So whether it is induced development or whether it is imposed development, somebody is feeling the need of developing, that is welcome. But that absorption of that developmental intention by the local beneficiaries is also important. Otherwise, there will not be any kind of induced development. So that it has to address the larger social benefits. Then the individuals who will be benefiting, they will have to be empowered, endowed with a sense of internality. That internalization, and that is as if we are not having as of now to a large extent. Unless as the saying goes, that development cannot be imposed. The answer come from within. Then only one will develop. If I do not want to develop, I will not develop. If I want to develop, I will develop somehow. That kind of a mindset, possibly in the northeastern region, is the need of the hour. So development must enable. So that is an important perspective for the development practitioners. That how can we sensitize the people of the northeastern region that you need to develop. Now you need to develop whether it is standard of living or quality of life, right? The other issues emerge. So in conclusion, I will say something more and then.
Has missed several trends of economic growth. The Green Revolution did not have much impact on agriculture. The region also missed the Industrial Revolution of the 1980s and 90s. Then ICT and ICT-enabled service revolution of the 2000s had almost no growth effect in the region, except for exodus of skilled and low-skilled workers from the region to places like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, and Pune. So these are the three types of economic growth which did not take place in the northeastern region. So these are some of the which we have, I think, talked about almost. Topography, lack of entrepreneurial skills, remoteness from the market, sensitive border, transportation costs are some of the hindrances to economic growth in the region. So it is now expected with the coming up of the Actis policy, which we had said earlier, that northeastern region would benefit from increased trade with East and Southeast Asian members. But when we talk about trade and we see that 2% of the total trade with Southeast Asian comes from northeastern region, and if this trend continues, northeastern region is not directly going to benefit. So, but in spite of that, if northeastern region is used as a corridor for transporting goods produced in other countries, there will be some indirect benefits. Like positive effect will be the growth of services like hotels, fuel pumps, restaurants. These things are going to develop, but at the same time, the markets in northeastern region are likely to be flooded with cheap consumer goods produced primarily in China. So this is a major cause of concern. So these products will put pressure on domestic industries. So and actual investment in the real term is a link with Southeast Asian countries likely to increase investment. And the thing is, unless infrastructural bottlenecks are removed, so these investments are not likely to increase. But works on highway projects, as we had talked about, infrastructure development, conversion of railroads from meter gauge to broad gauge, and their extension and power generation projects are underway. These things are developing gradually, but it has been slowed down by opposition from various interest groups. We had December, we had some due to the car revolution, as we say, Citizen Amendment Act. Now, then came COVID, and all these projects had to be slowed down. Then, but there are three main service areas where northeastern region may find outlets. One is education, second is healthcare, and the third is tourism. Investment in establishing institutions of higher learning in both private and public sectors can bring in a lot of revenue to the northeastern region. So here we need to compete with Bangkok and Singapore to bring in more and more people from other parts of the world to the eastern region. Then healthcare. We are now having a number of medical colleges and hospitals in northeastern region. Then the establishment of All India Institute of Medical Science will attract people from Bangladesh and Myanmar, will be which will bring them due to geographical proximity, then Bangkok and Singapore. Then tourism is a service which you have already mentioned. It is a service industry that can generate economic benefits to the states of the region. So the Actis policy is likely to affect to these three sectors. Thank you.
Okay. So quickly summing it up. So where are we? It does not, nation does not get rich first. Right? The corruption has been a main problem that has to be taken care of. And ultimately, from the developmental perspectives, we have to see, we have to be concerned about the priorities. about the social empowerment, economic empowerment, partnership development, the networking issues. One of the questions which has been raised in the chat box about the empowerment of the youth and that how can we engage the youth in terms of developing the northeastern region. So we cannot do it in isolation. Ultimately, we'll have to establish a working relationship with all other states, and that integration with our mainland is one of the important aspects. And the role of the youth, you can see from 1990s onwards, more especially, earlier it was mostly the tea, jute, or primary sector dominant state economy, but large-scale migration took place by the youth to places like, say, Bangalore, Pune, Delhi, Gurgaon, etc. And lots of intermarriages, also interstate marriages, have also taken place. So we see lots of cultural amalgam, lots of social amalgamation. So that's why northeastern region, right, more or less are on the right track. Possibly the way the of India has developed the schemes, projects for the benefit of the Northeast India. From the managerial perspectives, we have a long way to go as far as project management is concerned. And in terms of project management, we need to be concerned about the internal aspects as well as the external realities. External realities may not be within our reach, but we need to have our own contingency considerations. And Dr. Chandrama has talked about the dependency on fish production outside, fish coming from states like Andhra Pradesh, states like UP, Kanpur, Andhra Pradesh, etc. But here we can see that recently, yesterday's newspaper, it has appeared that the state is likely to attain self-sufficiency in fish production. That's a good news. That's a ray of hope. And here also, we can proudly say that our youths are taking the lead. They have been experiencing with making experimentations with organic farming, exporting high quality organic tea, all these. So we are hoping for the best. One question from the set we have already answered. Then one other, how can we improve and promote agricultural activities in the region? I leave this question to Dr. Chandrama Goswami.
Yes, sir.
How improve and promote activities in the region? Okay, how can we promote agriculture and activities in the region? You see, agriculture more or less the way we are practicing it. Dr. Chandrama Goswami has stated certain figures about the net irrigated area and use of high yielding varieties, etc. More or less, the cold storage has been a big problem, and the contract farming we are yet to experience. To some extent, the regulated market domain is there. Tea is one sector in Maharashtra are coming up. Now, those small cases are also the supply chain intricacies are here. So agriculture as such has got a large degree of interrelationship with other sectors. We say from farm to farm to fork. Farm is the agricultural farmland. FIRM farm is the manufacturing activity. FORK fork is in the ultimately towards the service sector, in the restaurant, etc. So how can we establish that supply chain linkage from the farm, from the production area, ultimately to the areas of consumption? So number of entrepreneurs have come up, and strawberry, sunflower cultivation, that are non-traditional areas are also being taken up by our local agripreneurs. But ultimately, they will have to develop their own entrepreneurship zeal. To that extent, that large issue of having low motivation and having low entrepreneurship skill will have to be addressed by the local agripreneurs. Definitely in agriculture, because the environment is congenial, the soil condition is congenial, everything is congenial. We are blessed by nature, we are blessed by God. Possibly the solution lies with us. Thank you.
Yes, can I add something? We need to bring in more educated youth to agriculture. So the educated people know better, means learn better, and then bring it into agriculture. They can take up some courses, and then the agriculture productivity is also likely to increase.
Okay, with this possibly we can close Dr. Sharon Singh, Professor Sharon Singh. That came up in the chat box, and more or less believe that we have been able to cover. Still, if some queries, questions, comments, concerns are there from the members, we can.
I think this has been an excellent
Professor
presentation,
Singh.
Professor Sharma and Professor Goswami. It was very interesting, and the wide coverage that you have done in your presentation and the systematic analysis that you did, taking agriculture, manufacturing, and then taking all the other sectors together, I think was very interesting and very informative for all of us. As far as your projections are concerned in terms of tourism and health, I think that's very, very genuine. That's a step forward in developing the Northeast. But I think much more needs to be done. And if really, as the Home Minister says, that that's where the potential is, I think they'll have to think more money, invest more money, and then probably we'll be able to take the advantage of the potential of Northeast. So I must thank you for such a masterly coverage of the area, your review, and having handled those questions so very well. It's 6:42, and I would request that we close. But even now, if there are any questions for both the professors in the audience, one can ask them now, please. The recording will be available tomorrow by noon. It will be on our website. We will send both of you a link to that recording. You can use it as and when you require. I have one announcement to make. The next 2 weeks, we are dedicating to the union budget. So Friday, 25th of December is a holiday. So you would have lots of time to relax, and 5:30 you can log in with us. And January 1, again you can log in with us. These 2 Fridays we are dedicating to the union budget, and we will be talking about, this is a pre-budget sort of suggestions that we will be seeking from our panelists, and you will have 5 panelists on December 25, and you will have another 5 panelists on January 1. So you're most welcome to come and participate on both the sessions on December 25 and January 1. And then on January 8, we have a professor from, when I met him, he was at Stanford. I was doing my studies there, and he was a professor of sociology. But now he's moved on to UCLA. So Professor Akhil Gupta will be speaking to us on January 8. So we have lined up series of webinars. Most importantly, the next 2 ones are on the budget, and we invite each one of you to come and please participate in that. With this, let me wish everybody a great evening and a good weekend, and looking forward to seeing you all next Friday. Once again, let me thank both the speakers and the participants who have devoted so much time and asked questions in this webinar, making it so successful. Thank you once again.
Thank